Nobody likes micro bubbles because they can make your tank look dirty or cloudy when it really isn't. And most of the time, it's your filter causing these bubbles. So I'm gonna share with you 3 very easy ways of how to stop those micro bubbles right now. So easy, you might even smack yourself for not thinking of it yourself. But stick around to the end because we'll go over different types and other reasons for micro bubbles not caused by your filter. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Kev, and on this channel, I make helpful videos on all topics of the aquarium hobby that get straight to the point. So if you like the sound of that, consider subscribing. First thing we need to check is gonna be very obvious, but I understand, it happens. Make sure that your filter is properly sealed. I'm talking canister filters now. All canister tops come with a gasket, which is what prevents any leaks. Leaks from water coming out and air getting in. So make sure it's installed and installed correctly on your canister cover. Then make sure that the top is tightened correctly. On an FX6, don't over tighten these locks, but make sure that they're pretty snug. And you'll want to tighten them using a cross pattern to make sure all sides of the top are sealed. On an 07 series or similar canister, I'd push down the top while installing to make sure it's seated properly. If your top isn't properly sealed, it will suck in air and then spit that air out right from your outputs, creating those micro bubbles in your tank. Second thing is your hose connections. Your hose connections must be fully submerged in the water. These connections are not airtight. You can easily disconnect or reconnect them, which means they're not airtight. Air can and will easily get in through here. This is gonna definitely cause micro bubbles spitting out of your output. The only way to prevent air from getting into these connections is to make sure that they're fully submerged. Last, very easy but commonly missed fix is your air stone or a bubbler being too close to your intake.
These are bubbles made on purpose, and these are micro bubbles.
If your purposely made bubbles are too close to a filter intake, they can get sucked right into the intake, and then they'll go through your filter and get spit out the output as micro bubbles. Obviously, this is a very easy fix, right? Just move your bubbler or air stone away from your intake so the bubbles don't get sucked in. But many people don't even realize that this is happening. If you're one of those people, then make sure you hit that like button. And if you're not one of those people, hit it anyway because you're enjoying this video. Before we move on to other types of reasons for micro bubbles, if you've been wondering what kind of fish these are, they're called African cichlids. And if you're interested in learning more about them and how to keep some of your very own, I created a free webinar training with the top 3 secrets about keeping them. And trust me, it's not that hard. Make sure to check it out. I got a link up here and in the description below. Now, there are other types of micro bubbles that can be in your tank that have nothing to do with your filter. A very common one is micro bubbles stuck to your glass or on your decor. This usually happens after a water change and is caused by a difference in water temperature. Colder water holds more oxygen than warmer water. So if you added colder water to your tank than the water that's currently in there, you'll get these micro bubbles all over your glass. Now, the bubbles themselves don't do any harm and they'll go away on their own once the temperature stabilizes, but this is an indication that you're adding water at a very different temperature than your tank. This can shock your fish and be very harmful to them. So if you see these bubbles after a water change, keep a close eye on your fish for any signs of stress. There isn't much you can do at this point if your fish are in a temperature shock, except to learn from it for the next water change. Removing the fish into another tank with warmer water will only shock them more because of, well, temperature change. Again, another common type of micro bubbles are those that stay stuck at your surface and never pop. The main reason for this is that your tank is dirty. Have you ever seen like a dusty, oily film at your surface? Well, dirt from your tank that shouldn't be in your tank will rise and collect at the surface. You may have added new substrate or a new piece of decor and didn't rinse them properly. Now whatever dust or dirt that was on them is in your tank. That dust and dirt traps the bubbles and doesn't allow them to pop. Your water might also be oily, either from some bad quality products that you use, or maybe bad quality food that you're feeding, or even worse, maybe some soap or detergent got into your tank. This oily surface also won't allow for the bubbles to pop. Now, this is kind of what it would look like, but because there isn't any dirt or oil in my tank, my bubbles are popping at the surface. But this is where they will accumulate at the surface in the corner of the tank, and it will look something like this. So in this case, if you suspect it's the food or some products you're using, stop using them. Easy, right? And to get your tank clean again, start with a nice big water change. You won't get all the dirt, dust, or oil out in just one water change, but over time and multiple water changes, you'll get that stuff preventing your bubbles from popping out of your tank. Did you find that helpful? If so, watch this video next. I think you'll enjoy it. And if you're a beginner in the hobby, check out this playlist right here. But wait, don't forget to like the video and subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side.